here on Live Now from Fox. But I do want to bring in our next guest to help break it all down. This is Brian Sobel, with political analyst. Always great to have you on, Brian. And yeah, I mean, this is so interesting, right?
Oh, absolutely, Mike. They're on the on the colonnade, in the colonnade, and right in the White House, where a lot of people walk by all those portraits, and to come by each president, and then you come to the Autopen, and I think it says everything about Donald Trump and his relationship or lack thereof with former President Joe Biden, and there it is. We'll see how long it stays that way.
And Brian, I think, I don't care what if people are on the left or the right. In this moment, I don't think we'll ever see this again from really a White House putting this out. I mean, this is something that is truly a President Trump administration.
No question. And this is a president who does not like, clearly, the former president, Joe Biden, and no love lost there. Joe Biden does not like Donald Trump. And this is Donald Trump's way, President Trump's way of saying, hey, you are insignificant to me. So insignificant, I'm going to replace you with the Autopen, which we have talked about, Mike, before. And we've spent time on the use of the Autopen, particularly by the Biden administration. And this is Donald Trump's commentary on Joseph Biden and the Autopen.
Yeah, and there's some real, thinking here for President Biden's presidency. When you look at it there, and there's a lot of speculation of why he would have so many signatures with the Autopen, because you feel like, okay, you spend your whole life to become president of the United States. You would want to start signing some documents and really using the office the way you see fit, but why is it that for President Biden, he used so many Autopen signatures?
We may never really know the answer to it, but the president signs thousands and thousands of documents during their time in office. And even as President Trump has pointed out, the Autopen is not used typically for signing major pieces of legislation, executive orders, certificates and things for close friends. These are all done by the president himself. And so it feeds the narrative, Mike, that a lot more was going on at the White House in terms of the president's cognition or interest in some of these things, which is really the charge by President Trump that he and that Joseph Biden in particular abdicated a lot of his authority, gave it to his staff, and the staff ran with it, particularly around the issue of pardons.
Yeah, that's such a good point there, Brian. And I was also thinking about, the way that President Trump is doing 2.0 for his administration. He really has the advantage of, hey, I can't be elected again, and I could really go full force with these social media kind of trolling attempts there. And really, at the end of the day, I mean, his base is going to 100% enjoy it and love it. And then at the same time, his detractors and haters, they are going to hate it 100% of the time.
Absolutely. It fuels this divide in some respects, because when you put an Autopen up for nearly half the country to look at who already don't like President Trump, it fuels that issue, that divisive issue that we have in the United States. And I know it's a satirical comment by the president, but at the same time, for Biden supporters, it's a real knock on them.
Yeah, so true. And I mean, to look at it as well, not only having the White House put it out, not only having like White House aides put video there like we saw with Margot Martin, but then, it's like different tiered approaches when it comes to the trolling level here. I just want to point out this photo that the White House put on. And I mean, it's President Trump now looking at the photo there of the Autopen. So it's just all these different layers, just in case maybe people were thinking, oh, maybe President Trump didn't sign off on. Oh, 100% he did. He's looking at it.
Absolutely. he had remarked to people in the past few weeks about the Autopen photo. I mean, he knew this presidential gallery was going to be installed. And I think at some point he turned to an aide and said, hey, we ought to put an Autopen where Joe Biden's picture will be or should be. And again, it's his comment about things. But Mike, you mentioned something else, and that is President Trump 2.0. The first President Trump, for all his talk about understanding government and all of that, he didn't really understand Washington, D.C. And then came Donald Trump 2.0. After 4 years in Washington, D.C., he hit the ground running, knowing exactly what he wanted to do and in what direction he wanted to go in. And as I've said in many interviews for people who are chagrined about what Donald Trump is doing, my answer is he's doing exactly what he said he would do. This is what he talked about on the campaign trail, and he's doing exactly what he said he would do. And by the way, then I remind people that it was Barack Obama himself who once said, you know, elections have consequences. So for people who don't like Donald Trump, that election had a consequence.
Yeah, that's so true. And I mean, you could also, for President Trump fans out there, they could actually thank probably President Obama for getting him involved in politics so much, because there was a lot of talk there of that White House Correspondents' Dinner when President Barack Obama was there, and he really was egging on Donald Trump, who was in the audience there. And a lot of people say it was that moment where Donald Trump says, you know what, I am going to run.
Donald Trump, I think, for a very long time, even before his first run, I think he was listening to people saying, you're very good at what you do, but why couldn't you do it for the entire country? I think it's some of the same type of things Ronald Reagan heard, and other people, Arnold Schwarzenegger, governor of California. You have all these people around these individuals who say, you know, you're very good at what you do in this arena. Boy, I bet you could take those skills and take them into politics. And so you've seen very often in American history, somebody really changing careers to run for the presidency of the United States.
Yeah, that's such a great point there, Brian. And I also want to talk a little bit about, you know, we see this type of, I mean, there's just a very distinct way that President Trump is able to communicate. Of course, he had before on Twitter and X. Now he does his Truth Social. But we see now on the left there, especially with Governor Gavin Newsom, he and his team are trying to emulate this in their own version and kind of like make fun of the way that Donald Trump talks and the way he talks to his fans out there. But it doesn't seem like it gets even close to what, you know, President Trump is able to do. Why do you think Governor Gavin Newsom is even trying to go that route?
Because Gavin Newsom is running for the presidency in 2028, and he's trying to set himself on the same level rhetorically and in every other way with the president of the United States. And he has decided that the way you do that is sort of by being as tough, if I may use that word, as Donald Trump is on social media, in interviews, and in other quarters. And we will see how that plays across the country. But if you travel through California and the viewers from all over the United States who are watching tonight get into California and see the commercials that he is running for Prop 50, which is to redistrict California, you can see that he's very presidential in his commercials. There are the big white doors behind him, and it looks like he's in a stately mansion like the White House. And so all the staging, even his speech points, are all presidential in the way they're designed. And he's doing that obviously because he's setting himself up for a run in 2028.
Yeah, but I hope that Governor Gavin Newsom knows that in 2028 he's not going to be going up against Donald Trump, and all of these attacks are always on the president there. So we'll see how it shakes out. It might be, at that moment, it might be maybe Vice President Vance that he's going after. Who knows? But last one, Brian. I want to ask you about back here to the moment of really the trolling effect here from the White House and President Trump. Do you think there's any connection from this to the timing right now of Kamala Harris's book being out and maybe just trying to, I don't know, take away a little bit more from that?
Possibly, Mike, but I think that the bigger story here is that Donald Trump, President Trump, has become quite frustrated with the continual attacks from the left, particularly, and very left. And he's one that doesn't take that stuff lightly, and he strikes back. And this gallery at the White House now is his, again, satirical way of striking back.
So true. Brian, thanks so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. We always appreciate it. And thanks again for being with us this evening.
Absolutely, Mike. See you soon.